Hey, so in this stream, I am going to um, play Reassembly, which is a game from 2021. It's indie. It's a top-down space exploration and resource gathering and builder and fleet management game. Um, it is sort of like Spore, um, in that if you play long enough, you can get to a point where you can upload your fleet to the centralized server, and then the game will potentially download randomly your tweet, or not your tweet, your fleet, sorry, and use it as an AI fleet against other players. So it's not true multiplayer, it's not co-op, but there is an element of sharing. So it can be kind of interesting in that regard. Um, I'm just gonna play it without a video overlay of me because it's not really required. And we'll just see how far we go. I think my goal here will be to um, show you the sort of basics of individual ship design and control, and sort of how you explore and resource gather, and probably some beginnings of ship construction, but I probably can't gather enough resources and unlock enough parts to do like real like carrier or cruiser or destroyer ships. It'll be more like a frigate or a smaller fighter or scout or explorer craft. So we'll see. So I'm gonna start with I'll start with the Terrans because that's usually what you start with, but I've already, in other games, unlocked other factions, and you can see they have different sort of default ship designs and different parts, and those parts have different characteristics. Um, but we'll just start with Terran because it's kind of the default and it's relatively easy to get into. So here I can name it South-Ed. And I'll just take the default blue and white colors because that looks like the Star Trek Federation. And then I have a relatively large preset for an explorable galaxy. I think I'll leave it here. Maybe reduce the stations a bit. And nothing omitted, and launch. All right, so you can use the mouse scroll wheel to zoom out and zoom in. You aim your ship by using the mouse. These are the tutorial pop-ups. And then, assuming you have the right heading specified by your mouse, W is forward, S is backwards, and A and D are strafe, left and right. You can also do some sort of diagonal movement with Q and E. And I think that's all we need right now. So usually I zoom pretty far out so that I can get advanced warning of when I am getting near enemies. But there probably aren't any enemies right away. Also, the sort of donut thing that I have my cursor on here is one of the types of station designs for the Terran fleet. And you could also see this green indicator that shows me where another close by one is. And this is telling me to try the tutorial objectives. So, yeah, and then these are other ships in the fleet, these little motes that are flying around and spiraling and so on. So let me do the left mouse. Pew, 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 pew. And the right mouse is some missiles. And we'll look at the ship design with 1 to modify the ship. And this is where I would build up the ship. And actually, I have some P, so I'm using, this design is using 218 out of 300 possible points or power. R is resources, that's what I gather when I'm in space, and if I get close to a station, I can convert resources to C, which is credits, and I'll show you what credits do later. So given that I have a few more points, I think I'll just concentrate on making it a little more maneuverable. And this build is symmetrical, so I try to do the same on the left and the right. You can see the control block here, and the direction of forward movement is this red arrow here. So if I were to put like a big old, here, let me move this. If I were to put a big block or a lot of them, let's just put a lot of them over here, you can see as I do so that the center of gravity is changing and the red arrow is moving to its right. So it's actually keeping track of the sort of momentum and the center of gravity for the ship and adjusting based on where I put components. So if I keep it symmetrical, that's generally better for control. I'm also going to add some defense cannons in case I get too close to a dangerous enemy. Rotating to put it on the way I like. And I think, this is a flat cannon, 22, that's actually pretty good. So I'll actually, since I've added some thrusters near the nose, I'm going to take away the smaller ones here, or at least one of them. Put a flat cannon there, and the same on the other side. So these are sort of point defense weapons that help stave off missiles and other projectiles coming at me. Alright, so that's 288p, much closer to 300, so more efficient use of the power that I have, or the points that I have to devote to a ship design. So I will save this, and then I go back, and if you zoom in, well, it was very quick, but if you're zoomed in and you can actually see ships, like if you make a major change to the design, you'll see it slough off the old parts and rebuild the new parts. Alright, so let's go exploring. And you may have noticed that there are little yellow numbers that pop up occasionally, like that +7 there. That is credits, and you get credits for primarily for exchanging resources for credits, but you also get the credits from exploring and essentially being in unexplored sectors. So also you can see that the tutorial has moved along a bit. So let me look at the map, the big map, and then fly near a damaged station to reactivate. So for that I need the sign of a damaged station, or an inactive station, which is blue. And all I have right now to look at are green. They are activated spawners, so I just need to keep an eye out for an inactive one to fly near. There's also usually baddies near inactive stations, so I need to be aware of that. I do have 3R, which is not very much, to exchange for credits. I think alright, and I see in my mini-map that there is a blue station to the west. So I think I'll head over there. It looks like my allies are fighting some baddies, which is trying to pick up some more resources. Apparently those are not resources. Anyway, it looks like there's some combat going on, so I need to be aware that there may be some combat for me to do. You also don't want to run into these gray blocks, or really your other ships, if you can help it, because they will damage your ship, and then it will take you some time to rebuild them. So I'm sort of tooling around, but not too fast, because I don't want to slam into something and disable myself. Here's the inactive station. So you get super close, and you can see that blue thing. The pie got smaller until I possessed it or reactivated it or something. And now the station is grabbing nearby components and rebuilding itself. And I can use this to exchange R for credits just by flying close enough. So you can see I have 680 credits, so I'm going to actually look at the unlock screen briefly so we can look at that together. So, upgrades, pardon me. There's two major things you can do in the upgrade screen. One of them is you can use this big rectangular button to exchange credits for increasing your maximum P when you're in the construction mode. And the other is that you can exchange credits for parts that you unlock by clicking and dragging them over to the palette and spending the credits. So like if I want proton beam, for instance, that's going to cost 370 credits. But it will add a valuable weapon to my roster of things that I can get. What I am going to get, however, is a harvester, because a harvester block increases the range at which you can collect R significantly, and it's only 50 credits, so I'm going to do that. I'll click it, drag it, drop it, there it is. And I think I will, in fact, increase my P, so I'll do it once, and twice. Boop. And maybe 3 times. Let's just spend as much as we can. Alright, so this next level I can't afford. It's 200C and I only have 135. So now I get out of upgrade and I'm going to go back to ship design. So I bought the harvester block, which is pretty big. The thing to notice about it in this build is that the ship is symmetrical around 1 block, and I kind of want it to be symmetrical around 2 blocks so that I can add this harvester without causing balance problems of any kind, or just symmetry problems for visual symmetry. So what I'm going to do is see if I can afford to double the middle. So I'm just going to split that off. I'm going to select the middle. I'm going to click Alt and click and drag. And the thing about this, so the P went up pretty high, much higher, but the thing about this is that it won't duplicate the command module. So instead, I add a container to balance it, and then I can stick it back. The other thing is, I want to move things around a little bit. So I think what I'll do is, what will I do? I think I'll get rid of these two blocks, and I'll move these two container blocks over here, which reattaches all that stuff. And then I'm going to put the harvester block here, but I'm going to move the unconnected missiles. So I'll just move those forward. I'll put this harvester block here, which reattaches all this stuff. And you can see these red diamonds. They mean that these components are no longer connected to the design and won't be included. So you have to reattach them in order to get them back into the design. And so as I do this, I'm going to actually try to just do it all together, and I may exceed my points. That's my biggest concern. I did not. So 375 out of 399. The ship is a little bit bigger, but it's still reasonably symmetrical. Our resource reserves are up to 553. And that actually matters more when you have a factory and you're building your own ships out of your own reserve. But it also just means that I can gather more resources before I turn them into credits if I need to. So this is okay. I'm going to rename this to Interceptor 2. And I'm going to save it. And you can see now my ship is building itself because I've changed the design significantly. This only seems to happen after you come out of the ship editor. If you respawn, it sort of respawns whole, but well out of combat range, which is usually what destroys your ships. So I can now try the primary firing mode. Seems a little bit more spammy, which is good, and then the secondary is just firing more missiles. So that's also good. Okay. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that I can see resources better. I do have the ability to go really fast, which I need to keep under control because I don't want to die. And I got very close to a bad guy without sort of paying attention, so that's not great. Run away! So I'm going to zoom out. So I've gone into sort of enemy territory, which is why I got into this problem. But the thing is that's nice about this ship's design is that it does have a few missiles. And missiles are good because you can get out of firing range for most enemies and still do significant damage to them. But he is getting closer. So I can also get into the station's shield or behind the station's shield and see if that helps at all. I think it does, but I'm going to have to move. Let's move. And you can see my point defense is actually firing without my prompting, which is also good. Ooh, caught that. Strength in numbers. Firing at someone else. Yes, killed somebody. But not without risk, you see, because I got in the middle of it, which is not great. This is too far away, this view, for me to be useful at fighting, but it's actually, I don't know, you gotta find the right distance so that you can support your own combat. And oh, my friend just completely, oh my god, my friend is just laying waste over here. I need to get out because this guy is big. Big. But maybe I can help my friend. Friends is, and then if I go forward, I can pick up more R because they drop R when they die. Nice, one shot. 4 missiles. Okay, so I'm close to full on the resource reserves. Now I'm filled, so it's time to go to the station and change it to credits. And then I'll hop into automatically, so that's cool. And when it did so, when it got my resources, the station built another ship, like me, to help hold down the territory, explore, and gather resources. So it's good in that it's holding down the territory. It's not so good in that it's helping harvest uh, the resources that are nearby. But that's okay. I mean, there's usually enough to share. It's just, how greedy do you want to be? Nice. Okay. So I'm up to 400 credits, which is good. I think I want. See, all those resources are coming in. Just little tiny bits here and there from harvested plants, space plants. Space plants! More baddies. Tear them up. Tear them up. Ooh, that was a nice long range kill when they were off screen, even. Oh, yeah. Tear them up. Tear them up. Nice. And I traded with this carrier looking thing. So that's kind of awesome. That'll happen automatically just by flying close. It looks like there's something going on over here, which got taken care of before I could really do anything. Here's the red fleet, which are not too challenging. They're somewhat challenging, but they're not too challenging. Depending. They do have some big ships, so they can be somewhat challenging. Ooh, there you go, running into things. Running into plants is not as bad as running into other ships or the gray blocks. But it can still do some damage, so you want to be aware of high velocity collisions. So I'm up to, 868 credits. It's more than I had before. Um, That yellow beam is a healing beam. Those are almost always good. And that's from my allies picking up components from enemy ships. So Federation doesn't usually have healing beams, but it does if they are plundered from other fleets that do have healing beams. So that's kind of an interesting way that this works too. Yeah, pick up that. Oh, am I full? I'm full. That's why I can't pick up that resource. So now I can. And now I have 1,200 credits, so it's time to look at the upgrade panel. So, I think it is more important to unlock components from the data bank right now and increase P later. But let's do a balanced approach. Let's add 40P and 44P and then spend on. Ooh, I've priced myself out of the factory already, which is unfortunate. But drones are fun, so I'll unlock drones. Um, Manipulators are good. I mean, they're all good, but what's good right now is the question. And I think I'll unlock this big thruster, which is helpful for capital ships, even though I don't have a capital ship, and I'm not really. 483 points is not really good enough for a capital ship yet, but it's on the way. And then maybe is the rocket launcher unguided? I really like the guided missiles better. And I think it's just missile launcher launches homing missiles, torpedo, high damage unguided torpedoes, unguided rockets. Yeah, I don't think we have much else besides the missiles in the Terrans uh, with respect to guided uh, missiles. So I have made in the past some big missile carriers that just fire a huge number of missiles, which can be fun. So maybe we'll get to that too. The turrets are auto aiming, and then things like the antimatter cannon, the proton beam, the plasma projector have very narrow firing arcs, and you have to just aim your ship at whatever you're shooting at. Um, so it's kind of an interesting mix of parts. And again, if you use a different faction, you'll have a different set of parts. So that could be cool too. So now that I have more P, I am going to improve or build my design more. And I think what I'll do is I'll show you the fleet management system so that I can show you how to save a design, which is super simple. So right now I'm using the current design, and I started out using the Interceptor, the first one that was given to me by default. So if I want to save this one to the design storage, all I do is I hold down the Alt or the Option key on the Mac, the Alt key on Windows, hold it down, click and drag to an empty spot. Easy. The other thing that I can do is if I don't want to derive a design from the one that I have here, I can make sure it's highlighted with the white outline and use the delete key and use it again, and it's gone. And then the next time I click current design, it starts me with just the command module. And the other thing that I can do is if I want to base my next design on an existing design storage design, I can do Alt and I can click and drag that over to the current design, and then double click, which I'm not very good at apparently, At some point, I'll click it correctly. Ludicrous. Or, if I'm just having trouble with that, I'll do escape and 1, and then I can go into the design. Sometimes from the fleet management, you can go into design, but apparently I am not that skilled this morning. So what do I want to do? I think I'm actually going to go back to fleet design and delete entirely and edit and build something from scratch. So when I build something from scratch, I want to be cognizant of the fact that in combat, it's the command module that is the most important, and if it gets toasted, then you're done. And you have to respawn. I also want to be cognizant of that, point of symmetry, whether it's 1 point or around 2 points, primarily for these bigger parts like the harvester. And later there will be a generator that is 2 units wide. So the question is, let's see, so the harvester does not use energy, which is interesting. The generators create 25 energy per second. So I'm just going to get 4 of them for 100. Later on, we'll have parts that provide shields that have just better range and weaponry. I'm actually going to try to do. Let's try to do a missile carrier. So the hull is different from the containers in that containers have, what is that? 104 health. The hulls have 250 health, so they're just better at armoring things, right? So and that was slow, so let's try to do it fast. So fast is highlight and then alt and drag. And I don't think, yeah, the parts don't actually cost P, so they're seen as structural. Let's build some out here. And I could be more spindly if I wanted to with that narrow hole, but I'm going to stick to this. I'm going to do a hole here to prevent damage to the control module, since I don't have shields yet. And I'm going to, I don't need this. I think it uses too much energy anyway. Oh no, it just provides thrust without using energy, which is interesting and good to know. It's also not, it's probably not required, so let's do this instead. We'll have to do a test or two and make sure that the performance characteristics are what we like. And then the other thing to realize or to keep in mind is that you need backwards facing thrusters if you want to go backwards. And in order to turn, it helps immensely to have side facing or diagonal facing thrusters as well. So I'm already at 189 without adding any weapons. So I said I would try to do a missile carrier, so let's try a missile carrier. I don't know if I have the points for it. I think I do, for at least a light missile carrier. This is a little densely packed, but it should still work. Oh, no, 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 it's not going to work. Alright, let's just do them on the outside then. So if I do it without Alt and click and drag, they just move. It's also good. So in here I'll do some defense cannonry. And I will jumping around. Well, it's very close. Alright, I'm going to take this one off. Too much. Too much by 6? So I'll just take 2 of these defense cannons off for now. And we can do other optimization later. Alright, so that's 10 double-guided missiles, 2 defense cannons, 2 flat cannons. Let's put some fins on here so that they look slightly less, I don't know, blocky. So I use the M to mirror the rotation, or mirror the presentation of the slanty piece, and then I rotated it with Q and E to get it to rotate to the facing I wanted. This looks okay. It's kind of ugly and utilitarian, but that's fine. So let's do, I don't know, missile, frigate, and then save. And then zoom in to watch it rebuild itself. And you can see it sort of twisting around and ramming into things, and that's because it doesn't have any propulsion. So this is a problem in that sometimes, see, the propulsion is only backwards facing, which is sort of ramming it into. This is not good. It's ramming it into the gray things, which I told you about before, and it keeps building parts and then shaving them off. So what I'm trying to do is get to a point of stability where it can stop doing that. The other thing that is helpful is if I put the pointer behind it, it's less likely to use its only backwards facing thrusters to continue to ram me into the space boulder. But unfortunately, I don't know, this may be untenable and I may have to wait to get out. I don't know. Oh, see, it's already finally. No, it's still ramming me into the space boulder. I'm gonna keep zooming in. I don't know if that will help me at all. This just seems to be one of the bugs. There we go. There we go. Okay, finally some stability. And already it's built stuff based on my design. Now, I mentioned before that because I have a long-range weapon like a missile battery, I should zoom way out so I can see stuff happening around me. Also, my resources are about half, they're more than half full, so I'm going to go and exchange them for credits. with this carrier here while running into my compatriots, because that's always helpful for everyone concerned. It doesn't seem to want my credits, which is, oh, there we go. Woo! Going too fast. Running into things again. Okay. Now I'm going to go and explore. So I want to go for the red things, the red sectors on the mini-map, because those are more likely to have bad guys I can shoot at. There's one. Highlight and fire many missiles. Many, many. Blow that up. Blow this up. This one's behind me. It's probably better to shoot at ones that are closer to me and behind me. Alright, well, the missile batteries are helping nicely with the smaller targets. Oh, that's super nice. And those explosions are from my guided missiles not finding anything and destroying themselves. I don't want to go too fast towards enemies when I might get ambushed by a bunch of them all at once, which is why I'm sort of being a little tentative here. But I could probably move faster than I'm moving now. I'm just worried about getting ambushed. The other thing about missiles is that they can shoot through plants, they can shoot to some extent around boulders, which is very nice, sort of fire and forget. Also, I don't have to explicitly target. I can target things that are off screen, that my scanners can see, that are too far for me to zoom out. Uh, I can. Ooh, I can also. Uh, I can also fire at targets that are being targeted by other enemies or other allies. There's also possibilities. The only real problem is some of them have point defense. And capital ships are just too big to take on with smaller volleys of missiles. Um, but you can have enough missiles. I mean, you can really load up a missile carrier if you want to. So those are all possibles. And I'm just sort of picking up the wreckage that I created by blowing. Oh, see, now this guy's too big. Although I might be able to get him because I don't think he's made for combat. Well, let's zoom in. Yep, I killed him. However, I think he may have killed my forward-facing weapons, so those have to regrow. Or maybe I don't have any. No, I just don't have any. Also, my mini-map has revealed another station for rescue. It looks like I could stay out of this fight, but I don't want to. Oh, my resources are entirely full. So I don't know if I want to go. That's pretty far, but it looks like I don't know. Let's give it a shot. I feel like I'm getting into a lot of potential trouble here, but I can move very fast. So as long as I don't run into anything, ooh, like this guy, which I just did because I am smart. All right, so this is probably not going to go well for me because I don't think I'm going to survive. Oh, I did survive, but not long enough. Alright, so I'm getting torn up by the enemies. And so I will respawn at the same place because the station's already here, which is good and bad. It means that I will do a lot of dying. Yeah, I only have like a second. Okay, but things are improving because the station is starting to take apart the enemies. And my point defenses are helping, but it's still not fast enough. But you see, the station is building itself, so it's actually doing a lot more damage by the second. So I can help by using my missiles to help clear out baddies. And now we've hit a sort of stable situation. And I can sort of hang around and gather resources from the battles and trade them in immediately for credits. So this is actually fairly helpful. And the station is building more of the missile frigates, or whatever they are, what I'm driving. But these are all just autonomous vehicles, which is fine. Right now, I don't really want to manage the fleet. I do, however, like I would like to be able to steer. That would be awesome. Okay. And that is my cat. The missiles are the unused missiles are blowing up the remains of the enemy ships because occasionally that can free up a resource that you can gather. So that's another thing you can do is go around spamming things with bullets and missiles just to see if that will free up more resources for you to gather. But I notice I have 1,700 credits, so let's go back into the upgrade screen. I'm going to buy that bigger generator, which is 1,200 credits, and then I'm going to upgrade the P twice, and now I'm going to look once again at the design. So I've added more than 100 P. That means I can start building this out. So let's do that. So this is what I mean by missile carrier. And I'm just going to build one side, and then I'm going to copy and mirror it for the other side. And my mouse is acting wonky. And there's actually stuff in the way, so I'm going to build one block here, and then I'm going to Alt, click, drag, and stick it on. Also, there's some gap here, so let's put more missile launchers here. And then 570. Oh, we're right there, huh? I don't think I can even add one right now. Nope. Alright, so we'll just have this weird architecture for now. Yeah, and we'll wait to get more P so we can add more missiles. That's fine. It looks a little silly, but it's fine. Let's We'll just save it. Okay, so again, you can see it building. And I didn't add any missiles on those arms, so it's just going to hang out the way it is. You can see the tutorial wants me to unlock the factory block, but I don't. I keep spending my credits on other things, so that'll just wait. But my mouse is acting super weird again. Do I have something on it? I don't think I do. Alright, I think it is actually about time to stop, so let me just stop, and I'll return to reassembly later if I figure out what's going on with the mouse. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Bye!